All right, lots more announcements from Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, and to analyze those further, we're joined now by Avik Saha, Swaraj India member, also national convener of Jai Kisan Andolan. Anjali Bharadwaj, social activist and co-convener of the NCPRI, is with us. We're also being joined by Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy, co-chairman of the CII Education Council, as well as Sanjay Sethi, MD and CEO of Chalet Hotels, to give the perspective of the tourism and hospitality sector. There's been no individual announcements for that sector, which no doubt is going to be a disappointment. But Avik Saha, let me begin with you. From what we heard from the Finance Minister today, focusing perhaps specifically on these additional funds for Manrega, 40,000 crores was talked about to provide work for migrants who have now returned home, and indeed as a boost for the rural economy. Your thoughts?
This is how Manrega operates. The person who wants a job first must have a job card. And on the basis of the job card, he or she has to make an application, and then the application, if it is accepted, gets work. 40,000 crores sounds like a big figure, but the process involved before a person actually gets work, the Finance Minister perhaps doesn't know or has chosen to remain silent on it. I don't understand how this will work. She said 300 lakh crore mandates. So 260 lakh crore mandates has already been approved, and this extra 40 lakh crore mandates that she's envisaging, I don't know what is the shelf work that she will do, how she will provide it. Once again, this whole provisioning of money through a torturous process to reach people has been the hallmark of the package that we've heard 5 times. There is no direct allocation to those who need the money today. So that is my first and major complaint about the Manrega allocation.
Anjali Bharadwaj, would you agree with that assessment that, again, this is not as immediate a relief as one would have hoped for? All right, Anjali, we seem to have a problem getting your audio. We'll try and fix that in a moment and come back. Yes, Avik Saha, you wanted to continue?
I just forgot one important point. You see, the ignorance of the Finance Minister became so palpable when she said that this work people will be able to use during monsoon. She doesn't know that it is during monsoon that rural India does not need Manrega, because that's when work is available in rural India. I was so sad. I mean, people who are planning these packages have no idea about the people who need these packages and when they need the packages. That's what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Right. All right. Anjali Bharadwaj, if you would like to jump in at this point.
Absolutely. Ankita, I think that what can be safely said after hearing the Finance Minister give out all the tranches of the economic package is that the migrant workers have not got what they needed.
Right.
We have to understand, for the past 2 months, it's very clear the defining images of the lockdown in our country have been migrants taking those hundreds of kilometers of journey back, even on foot. And the reason why they felt that they needed to leave was that they had no income after the lockdown, and food insecurity was a problem. There are at least 3 kinds of migrant workers. One, who are stranded in the city today. They have no means of earning an income and have food insecurity. There needed to be a package from the Finance Minister which guaranteed basic minimum income for these people. For anyone to go out and buy milk for their children, to buy medicines, to pay rent, they need money. And we did not see anything coming by way of any guarantee of basic minimum income for these people. There is nothing on urban employment guarantee. These people have been left high and dry. And in terms of food security, 8 crore people, the Finance Minister said, will be added. Now, she said that migrants will be 8 crore migrants will be given food. What we needed was universalization, because now we know, any of us who have worked on implementation know that the burden now to identify themselves as migrants to get a certificate from an employer to show that I am a migrant so I can get rations will now be on these people. Nobody is willing to give those kind of certificates. The second kind of migrants are those who are still on the way. There needed to be clear announcement for buses, for transport, for trains, and money to be put aside for that to transport these migrant workers to their places in the villages safely. That has not happened. And finally, those who have managed to make the long journey and go back to their villages needed an employment guarantee, they needed food security. Again, we have seen that 40,000 crores, which she talked about today, is too little too late. We needed the finance minister to recognize that there are many more people who will now be needing job guarantee in the
Anjali
rural
Bhardwaj,
areas.
to be fair, Nirmala Sitharaman talked about providing a total of 300 crore person days with this additional expenditure of 40,000 crores on Manrega. Do you see this as being inadequate, or do you see bottlenecks in the system?
Both, Ankita. One, of course, is that, this is, like I said, too little, too late. There are going to be many more people who have gone back. There has been reverse migration that needed to be recognized. There will be a greater demand for work in the rural areas. There needed to be increase from 100 days to 200 days, perhaps, of work, so that people could be guaranteed basic income. So that has not happened.
Right.
These 40,000 crore, to access them, there will be hurdles like has already been spoken. But in itself also, the figure will not cover the kind of migration that has taken place. So we will see migrant workers who have now taken this arduous journey and gone back being left out of that net again. So there,
Okay.
to my mind...
Yes.
Yeah.
Dr. B.V.R. Mohan Reddy, your response to the points that have been made both by Avik Saha and Anjali Bhardwaj here, but also in your opinion, what was perhaps the most significant takeaways in your opinion from what we heard the Finance Minister say today?
Thank you, Ankita. I guess I'll put them into three different buckets. One is in terms of stimulus. I think the larger beneficiary was the MSME sector in the industry. I think they have done reasonably well in making sure that the MSME sector would kickstart. There's no denying it could have been a lot more. The second one is that in terms of reforms, I think they've gone a long way. We had a large set of reforms coming in yesterday, especially in defense, in aerospace, in space, and so on and so forth. And the third bucket I would like to consider is the use of technology. Today, the finance minister talked at length about use of technology in education, in healthcare, company law, and also an associated stuff with this is to bring about competition to the public sector. I think it's a mixed bag in my perspective, but I think they've come a long way in terms of doing lots of things over a period of last 5 days.
Dr. Reddy, though, I mean, the criticism so far has been, is now the time to talk about sort of large-scale reforms? This could have happened any time in the last 6 years of this government. When we talk about, for instance, today we heard the finance minister talk about allowing private players to operate in sectors where there have been only public sector enterprises. Do you see this as the need of the hour right now, or are these kind of broader reforms that could have happened at any given time? Did we need to be in the middle of a full-blown COVID pandemic for these announcements to happen?
Ankita, you have a very valid point. It should have probably happened in the last 6 years, any point of time. But the fact of life is that it has not happened. Here's an opportunity. COVID gave us a few there are several challenges. Unimaginable challenges, no denying at all. They're being attended to, but all the same, they also gave us opportunities at this point of time. The government used an opportunity in terms of announcing these, at least now, if not probably in the next 4 years.
I'm going to interrupt you there for a moment. Some news coming in at this point from Maharashtra, where the lockdown has formally been extended. My colleague Purva joining us with the latest on that. Purva, what are we hearing?
Well, it's just in that the order has come in from the state government that the lockdown has officially been extended till 31st May. Now, this is for the entire state at this point of time. However, we are soon expecting another order which will tell us what the relaxation or curbs are for the green zone or the orange zone. But as of now, at this point of time, the order which states is that till 31st May officially the lockdown is extended in Maharashtra. However, as I mentioned, that there will be another order which will come in, which will tell what will be the extent in lockdown 4.0 when we go from tomorrow, which zones will be open, what will be for the red zone, what will be for the green zone. That order, that detailed order or notification will come in a little later, but as of now, the order states that till 31st May, the entire state of Maharashtra, the lockdown has been extended.
All right, that's a big announcement then, Purva. This isn't just for instance, Mumbai, where there's been that very sharp spike in cases, Mumbai alone accounting for a significant percentage of India's overall cases, not just Maharashtra's. So you're saying for all of Maharashtra, the lockdown in its present form with all restrictions that are in place right now is going to be extended. There is no further relaxation. Is that correct? Or will there be an order on easing of curbs too?
Absolutely. Like as of now, what we... No, absolutely. As of now, the entire state of Maharashtra, for the entire state, the lockdown has been extended till 31st May at this present form. So that's why another order, this order clarifies and mentions categorically that there will be another order which will come in soon, a detailed order which will tell us what exactly will be in for the red zone, the green zone, whether there will be any relaxation of any lockdown in other zones. So that order will come in a little later, but as of now, for the entire state of Maharashtra, till 31st May, the lockdown has been extended.
All right, Purva. Thanks very much indeed for joining us with that update. No doubt we're going to be hearing from other states making similar announcements as the day progresses. Now, states are, of course, facing sharp declines in revenues as well. And today we heard the Finance Minister talk about that at length as well. She talked about increasing the borrowing limit to 5% from 3% of states' GDPs, and that's going to bring an additional 4.28 lakh crores to states. Avik Saha, a quick word on that.
What I heard was the central government telling the state government that we will tell you what to do. There was a tone of accusation. Mr. Sitharaman said that you have only used 14% of what you could have used. So she basically told the country that the state governments are inefficient and the central government is the kind-hearted, efficient organization that is handling the country. This was a very bad message for federalism. On the increase on the fiscal limits, she put conditions. Basically, she said, this is how we will run the country. And if you listen to us, you can do this, this, and that. So fundamentally, I see a complete collapse of the federal structure, the ability of the states to decide what is good. So regionalism goes, strong, controlled centralism comes in. States were not given any allocation. They were just told to borrow, which has again been the hallmark of this whole package. So more borrowing, and more borrowing, no allocation whatsoever. I'm asking someone to calculate the actual physical money that the government, central government will spend, and I assure you it will not touch even 1 lakh crore.
Dr. Reddy, is that something that you'd like to sort of respond to also on the whole aspect of corporate affairs and corporate affairs related reforms, the announcements we heard from the Finance Minister today, whether it was on new relaxations in the insolvency code or for that matter, the public sector enterprise policy where now private players will be allowed to participate. Your thoughts on that?
Sure. I guess, there is some validity in saying that the states have been given directions and how they can spend the money going up to that 5%. But I guess, they probably put some guardrails in my perspective to make sure that it gets spent on areas where I think there is an absolute need at this point of time. The 4 areas that the government of India has identified, and they said each one of them had to be spent 0.5% of it 0.5% was given away to them, another 5% and achieving 3 out of the 4. I think to that extent, it is putting guardrails is what came to my mind, as opposed to saying, the federalism is under threat at this juncture. But getting back to some of the things that they've done in the corporate affairs, I think they are very positive at this point of time. They've brought down, insolvency limits have got increased. So therefore, because of the COVID, if some of the MSMEs going to suffer from insolvency, they probably can get, they don't get into that trouble at all. And there are a couple of more things that they've done in making sure that some of these disputes that could come by need not be criminalized. There was criminalization of some of the stuff that was happening. That has been given a complete relief at this point of time. I think some of these would definitely help the corporate right now to focus on rebuilding the business as opposed to complying with the laws. We are all been complying with the laws, but there could be a few misses here and there. I'm talking generally for the industry. And those misses should not be construed to become criminalized and thereafter people getting into trouble. Therefore, they're giving us a tremendous amount of relief in making sure we rebuild our businesses.
All right. We will come back to that in just a moment. I do have to take a very quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Sunil Prabhu, who was at the Finance Minister's press conference, joining us now. Sunil, the big takeaways also, you asked specifically about the fiscal deficit and the Finance Minister indicating that it's perhaps too early to talk about that?
That's right. But of course, off the record, we've been able to understand the fiscal deficit was pegged at 3.5%, which is basically telling you how much will be the gap between revenue and the expenditure that the state, the center will take. It was pegged at 3.5% in its budget estimates. At present, of course, it's veering towards 5.5, but Finance Ministry officials say that they should hope to keep it between 4.5 to 5%, but much will depend on what the offtake is, because we are in the month of May, where both in April and May, these are indicators where you have seen a complete lockdown situation, so it's unlikely to go forward. One more point, Ankita, we had said that there is a UK model. Now Finance Ministry officials and others explaining that this public sector, strategic and what is not strategic is like a Thatcher kind of movement where it will be decided which sectors will be strategic and not strategic. As already been explained, for example, Air India is already on the block, so it's not a strategic sector. And like that, they will define and ensure that they will have a closer look at public sector enterprises. But of course, this is not a COVID measure. We also saw Nirmala Sitharaman at her political best today, taking on the Congress party, Rahul Gandhi, as well as saying that we should not have politics at this. But while we do definitely see politics taking place on trains, especially in West Bengal, so it has to fit everybody at one size. When you don't do politics, then you won't get politics. But if you do politics, you will get politics from always.
All right, Sunil, thanks very much indeed for joining us with that update. Let's take quick last comments from our panelists. Sanjay Sethi, apologies for not coming to you earlier. Your take on what we heard the Finance Minister say. Are you disappointed that the tourism industry in particular didn't get any specific bailout package?
So, Ankita, we are clearly disappointed that the hospitality sector, which is on ventilator support right now, did not get any specific relief. A significant contributor to the GDP, employment, and the foreign exchange earnings for the country has been put out in the cold today. We were hoping to hear specific, facilitation by the government. It's not happened. A couple of things that we were expecting was that we urgently needed government to facilitate a one-time restructuring of loans by banks without them having to take provisioning in their books. Second, we were expecting some sort of soft loan to take care of the working capital needs of the industry. Given that we are very people intensive, that was an urgent need. But this is done. Now we look towards the state to give us some specific relief on things like industrial tariff for electricity. We are a declared industry. We don't get industrial tariff. We pay commercial rates. We're expecting waiver on excise license fees, reduction in property taxes, and some ease on the labor laws. I think it's critical now at this stage that companies be allowed to restructure themselves to make them viable for future. If we are not given that, a very important industry in this country and a large contributor to the exchequer is going to face the risk of near extinction, and especially and there are a lot of hotel owners who have a lot of debt on them. It's a capital-intensive business.
But specifically with response to what we heard from the Finance Minister about changes in the insolvency code, which will make sure that companies that are defaulting at this point because of COVID incurred or COVID related debt, there's going to be at least some relief on that.
Yes, there is some relief announced on that, but the fact is they will still reach a stage where they could, in the past could have been categorized as default. Now this is a specific period relief. Our industry is capital intensive to the extent that it takes several years to break even. And those of my fellow industry people who are deep in debt right now may not be able to survive the 1 year that we're talking about.
Okay.
But then,
fair enough. Anjali Bhardwaj, quick last comments. I'm completely out of time. Sum up what we've heard now in terms of all 5 announcements or all 5 days of announcements now from the Finance Minister. Where do you see sort of big lacunae still?
Ankita, when the Prime Minister first announced the lockdown, it should have taken into account the fact that 90% of India's workforce is in the unorganized sector. Unfortunately, all we saw at that time was the MHA coming out with a circular saying that employers will have to give wages to people. So when this 20 lakh crore, these tranches happened, when the Finance Minister announced things, there was great hope that now after the experience, at least of the last 2 months, there is going to be money put in the hands of people. Unfortunately, we've seen the central government abdicate its responsibility there again. This has become more of a loan mela where credit facilities are being extended for a vendor, a street vendor who sees that lockdown is going to continue in some shape or another, who sees that the economy is going to be down. Just saying that you'll get a credit facility is not enough. They need to give basic income to people, at least minimum wages or a percentage of that, for people to be able to survive through these times. Proper state collaboration with state governments was also needed to make sure that money reaches the people who need it the most. We haven't seen that happen in the announcements that have taken place so far.
We'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us on this program with your thoughts on what we've heard now from the Finance Minister in the last 5 days. We'll take a very quick break. News updates continue on NDTV 24/7.